Unit Down is an action arcade shooter. Sure, it has its problems, but that's because it's the first project from a solo developer, and it was good enough to engage me for a solid 4 hours. It's no real surprise that I'd be drawn to something made by a fellow Starfox 64 fan, especially somebody who still plays the game to this very day, teasing us with their high scores for one of the most polished games of all time. This is what initially pulled me towards Unit Down when it first came out years ago. Now I know what you're gonna think and I know what you're gonna say. This looks ugly, it's low effort. But graphics have never mattered to me as much as one simple thing: how much fun you can actually have with a game once you've sat down and played it. There are plenty of games out there that look bad but end up being some of the most engaging and fun games to play. The story that's in Unit Down isn't deep, but there's a bit of dialogue to pick at. You play as crew member Lars under the command of Captain Garrison, guiding a team through planets being invaded by Dr. Aura and his army while facing off against his henchmen that get sent out after you at predetermined times or when you feel ready to take them on. The goal is very simple: stop them and save the galaxy. It is as standard as stories come. Randy Becker clearly had a lot of fun making this game, though it doesn't seem like many people were willing to pick it up, considering how picky players can be about what even gets their attention. That's not really surprising. Still, Unit Down really wasn't a bad game outside of a few issues. When the game first released, there was a lot of balancing issues and mechanics that made progression feel a bit annoying, but over time the developer listened to feedback and started making the changes the game needed. Even now, the only real issue that seems to pop up is the enemies jumping from the background to the foreground and getting stuck behind invisible barriers. This makes it very hard for the player to see where they are until they're about to shoot, though thankfully it doesn't seem to happen all that often, so it's not really that big of a concern. One of the biggest problems was the timer distribution. Most of the time, you just wouldn't be able to afford upgrades because you aren't earning enough credits from the defense missions. Until you've played through the game enough times and killed most of the bosses and gathered enough resources to unlock the companion robots, you generally don't have much hope of taking down Dr. Aura or his goons effectively. This is more of a meta progression issue that was not present when the game was first launched. You will eventually get stronger by placing Tetris pieces in a box, which are completely randomized. This box was originally a lot smaller and also cut into 4 pieces, but it got expanded upon as the game's difficulty was a bit too much for most players. Bosses were also made mandatory events that pull you out of the missions, probably to help with balancing the overscaling features, though I feel like this drove up the difficulty in unintentional ways, since it's less about taking your time and more about rushing through the stages. Most of the visuals feel like they were made in Blender after just a few weeks of practice, causing everything to come out looking like latex metallic material, so it is hard to argue against the fact that Unit Down doesn't look very appealing. But like I once stated earlier, if a game is fun to play, it should not matter if it's looking like a pixel blob or you have the Aurora Borealis situated entirely in your bedroom. How much fun you can have is what should keep you engaged, be that through the gameplay or the story, not how shiny everything looks. The sound effects were definitely loud and abrupt, and the constant back and forth between the base scenes does feel a little bit drawn out. But once you have gotten back into the galactic map to plan out your offense, things start to get a lot more interesting. The music is one of the standout features, because it's catchy and fits the retro arcade era perfectly while blasting your way through the galaxy. Now, since this is an arcade shooter, the goal is simple: enter a planet of your choosing, move Lars around, dodging projectiles and shooting the enemies until you have to leave. The higher the enemy concentration, the tougher it will be to survive. You're not only protecting Lars, but also your crew on the spaceship, so you will have to periodically defend them from the missiles as well. You can leave at any time, and you can also head towards the boss fights whenever, though it is better to farm up some creds and upgrades before diving in. If you're expecting gameplay with a lot of diverse features, different weapons, and challenging enemies and bosses, that won't be found here. This is because it's very short and simple. Originally, the game was just way too easy, thanks to how much currency you would actually get from all the monsters and also boss rushing. Then it became a little bit too hard. It's a lot grindier and the timers feel a lot faster than they were before, and it doesn't feel like you're earning enough currency to fill up your upgrade board in time. This leads to more time spent fighting bosses slowly rather than a rewarding time investment, all due to a lack of damage or stamina. If you somehow manage to get the right upgrades and block shapes like attack speed, crit rate, and unique chips that actually fit on the board, you can easily breeze through the rest of the game. It's still fun even if you don't optimize, but unless you're looking to sink in a few hours, then it might eventually bore you. I wouldn't classify the game as a hidden gem. It's a fun game to pass the time, but then you eventually want to put the unit down, as it offers little in terms of replay value once you save the galaxy. But if you're into games that provide solid gameplay without a huge time investment, it might be worth checking out. On that note, it'll be interesting to see what they do with their next game, Unit Down Charge, which is what Randy Becker has been hard at work at creating, which does seem to be a bit more polished in many interesting ways. But for now, we're just going to have to wait and then eventually find out.